Okay, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome to the Racing Breaks preview of both the Doncaster St Leger Festival, and we're going to be looking at the Irish Champions Weekend over, of course, at Leopardstown and the Curragh, joined by our resident panelist, tipster, all-round legend, Ruby. Ruby, how are things, bud?
I'm great, Bash. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you. I'm looking forward
Had
to
an
a good.
eventful summer since I was talking to you last.
I know, I know. It's been a while. It's been a while, but I think they're now going to come thick and fast. We've obviously got Doncaster and Ireland this weekend. We were just saying the Ark's only around the corner, so lots of racing to look forward to, Ruby. Um, and should we start off looking my side of the water and let's focus on at Doncaster, obviously the St Leger Festival, and we're going to look through the group races on Thursday. We are currently recording on Tuesday afternoon, so we only have decks for Thursday. But let's start in the 225, the Betfred Mayhill Stakes. It's a fillies Group 2 over a mile. It's a great race here between Moon Target and Ailin, who was second and third in the Group 3 last time out. Ruby, is there any way you're sort of swaying in this race?
Yeah, look, I obviously Precise beat the two of them at Goodwood, which was a costly winner for Wayne Lord. Of course, he got that ban aboard Precise, which means he misses this weekend. But Moon Target was favoured on that occasion, came from well off the pace at Goodwood, which you can do, but it can be tricky at times too. And Precise even just had first run on Moon Target. Ailin was back in third, and I do think a more level track will suit Moon Target, and she could get her head in front. Pacific Mission improved a lot from Ascot to win at Kempton. Rose Guyat won at Deauville, first time up under Christophe Soumillon. The second hasn't run since. The third was well beaten, I think, last week at where's Leon Paris. So she was so hard to get a handle on that. That race at Deauville was for 2 year olds who'd never run, so it's probably a hard race to get a handle on. Sugar Island was unbelievably disappointed at the Curragh at the end of the month behind Queen of Hawaii. She ran absolutely no race. She was favourite that day in Wayne Lord and Roder, but she completely blew out Sugar Island. She can't be as bad as that run, Bashi, but it's hard to have confidence in her, and the form choice is definitely Moon Target.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on it. You said it's a bit of a tricky race to get a handle of. So whenever there's a race like that, I kind of want to have an each way bet. And the
Yeah,
one I'm going for, I think that form with Moon Target and Ailin's very strong.
yeah.
Uh, and I think Ailin's around about 7-1 poke in places at the moment. I'd rather be having an each way bet on her there. She was only beaten at 11th and three quarters, and I thought she was closing. And the step up to a mile will suit, but it's going to be a fantastic race. So it's Moon Target for yourself, Ruby, and Ailin for me in the 225.
Yeah, I just thought that Moon Target would uphold it. I think the reasons you're given for fancying Alien, I think that all suit Moon Target as well. So look, that's where my was going, but not massively strong bash. Just I do think she's the one that might win the race.
Okie dokie. All right, well, we will move on to the 3 o'clock. It's another Group 2 for the girls, this time over a mile and 6 furlongs. A bit of a wide open Group 2 here. Danielle, the early favourite. She made a lovely reappearance after 9 months off, finishing second in the Lily Langtree. Would she be, where your fancy's going here, Ruby?
I should have to be. Goody Two Shoes was just behind her in terms of endearment that day. The form does look solid. A good run here last November behind the Strange. Of course, the Strange is still in the Arc picture, I think.
Mhm.
The ground at York was too quick for her, so I wouldn't take a Strange's run at York too literal. So, yeah, Danielle would be the likely one for me, Bash. Santorini Star did improve to win at York over 2 miles, albeit in a handicap. I would have to step up another bit from there. So, yeah, Danielle, providing she's come forward and doesn't bounce bash, that awful bounce factor that no one can ever explain that does exist. But yeah, I'd be hoping Danielle get the job done.
Ruby, just explain that for people. What is the bounce factor? And, why does it happen?
I think it's more the exertions of the run bash, and then it's the art of training, which is not a science. Plenty of people have tried to make it scientific, but they haven't worked. And it's trying to figure out how much the race is taken out of a horse, how much you work you then give it. And it's probably some people
Is it more a
undercook them.
physical thing or a mental thing?
Physical. It's physical. It's
It's a
all to do with
physical thing.
training.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's like you think a horse has bounced out of or come out of a race really well, and you start to work it again to run, and then you run it, but actually it hasn't. It's been you've overcooked it, and then there's
Okay.
other times you undercooked them. Second run can often be difficult. We only highlight it off the back of a break, but it's probably, if you look at it, more universally, it's probably second runs full stop.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm in complete agreement with you. If there is no bounce factor with Danielle, I think she wins here. Ran to an RPR of 109, which was clear of anything else in this field. I think she's entitled to come on for the run. Has course form around about 3-1, which I think is fair enough at the moment for Danielle. Is there any other horses you like on day one of the St Leger meeting room?
No, I didn't study day one too much, Bash. You did say the group races, and that's where I
No,
looked.
that's
But
absolutely fine.
no,
That's
I
absolutely
was
fine. Normally, there's a little handicap
concentrate.
somewhere you're
Yeah,
being
I was
told.
concentrating more on the Irish stuff at the weekend. So yeah,
Okay.
had a quick look at Danny.
Absolutely fine. Okay, well, we will move on to the Friday at Doncaster. Obviously, we do not have declarations at the moment, and the 225, the Flying Childers Stakes. It's a Group Two flying five. It's going to be quick. It's going to be furious. Is there any way, any sort of horse sticking their neck out for you at the moment, Ruby?
I don't think the two-year-olds ran their race in the Nuntarp, Spicy Marg and Lady Imman. I'd be willing to forgive both of them for the run in the Nuntarp. I am a fan of Lady Imman's. Colin Keane will be back on board, or he's booked a rider, so I'm assuming she's running. Aiden's horse looks very fast, Mission Central,
Yeah.
who's won twice at the Curragh. I'm not convinced about his head carriage and his attitude, so I'd be willing to give him a swerve. Military Code is in there as well, but I do think if Lady Iman can bounce back from that Nuntarp effort, I think she's very fast, back in her own age group will suit her, and I will be with Lady Iman to get herself back on an even tread.
It's interesting you mentioned Spicy Marge as well because obviously I know Shuey quite well and he just speaks about this horse all the time. He absolutely loves Spicy Marge. Wouldn't be surprised to see her go in again. But I don't know. I was going to ask you about this Mission Control. Obviously has won over 6 furlong. I think the drop back to five will suit. I thought he looked like he had a bit of a high head carriage. Like
He does, but he's still very fast and he's probably
exactly.
very good. He didn't convince me. He hasn't convinced me, and I'm willing to take him on. But I have a funny feeling, Bash, that he
Could
could
be
be the kind
good.
of horse that's going to put a lot of egg in your face. But
Yeah.
no, I don't like the way he does things. But he is very fast, and he has won well on his last two starts.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. As soon as I saw the head carriage, I thought I was going to go elsewhere. Code looked like a good each way bet for me, but I think it's one of those ones where it's just staring you in the face, and I think Mission Control is just going to be too quick, and we'll just go from the front and play catch me if you can, and hopefully the high head carriage does not hinder his chances, but we will see at 225. And we move on to the 3 o'clock, the Doncaster Cup Stakes, another Group Two. For me, there's an absolute standout here, Ruby. Sweet William would be my bet of the St Leger Festival. Are you in agreement, or are you telling me I'm talking rubbish?
No, I would be Wonder Race last year, Bash, and has had a pretty good season this year. Started behind Rebels Romance at York in the Yorkshire Cup. Went to Ascot then for the Gold Cup, where he was outclassed by Trawlerman, ran really well at Goodwood behind Scandinavia, and run an absolute cracker in the Lonsdale lane behind Trawlerman at the Ebor Festival. No, I would be with Sweet William. I think he looks as well as ever. Could even argue he looks more genuine than ever. So yeah, I would be with Sweet William. Coltrane tops the pile. Hip Hop De Loire is going to go there. He just found it too quick from in the Ebor. This trip would suit him better, but he'd have to improve off a mark 100 of 106. Oisin Murphy, probably you would imagine, or not probably, definitely could have ridden Coltrane, but he looks like he's going to ride Sunway, which is probably a tip in itself. He was just behind Sweet William at Goodwood. They were third and fourth behind Scandinavia. So you never know. I'd say Sunway is the one to give Sweet William a race.
Yeah, interesting. I was at York when Sweet William was second, but me and about 15 lads were all on Trawlerman, and for about 10 seconds it went very quiet because Sweet William came there cantering. Didn't quite get on terms, but I think he looks better than ever. And 6-4, I don't think will last very long. Hopefully, Sweet William can win the Doncaster Cup Stakes. Nothing else for me on the Friday, Ruby. Anything for yourself?
No,
No.
quite enough after that Bash on the Friday.
Okie dokie.
No,
All right, full steam ahead. We are on St Leger Day, then still over at Doncaster on Saturday. Again, we don't know the declarations, but we know the likely fields. We'll start off in the 150, the Betfred Champagne Stakes, a Group 2 over 7 furlongs. This looks a good little race, Ruby. Quite competitive. Lots of unexposed improvers. Is there one you think you want to be with here?
Um, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm guessing,
Okay,
but I think Saba Desert might come to the Curragh on Sunday. I think
interesting.
Billy Dunnan is provisionally booked to ride him at Doncaster, but he's actually on both the Godolphin horses with William Buick on the other side of the Atlantic. He's also on Pacific Avenue. So um, I kind of thought Saba Desert might nearly win the Group 1 in the Curragh on Sunday, were he to come there. So um, you're guessing a little bit. I thought Go On was good at York in the Acom when he beat Italy and Distant Storm. I would say that was a good performance from Go On, and I'm going to side with him. PJ McDonald rode him on that occasion. He's booked to ride him again. But yeah, Go On for me.
Yeah, we're in complete agreement again. This doesn't normally happen, Ruby, but for me, the two horses at the top of my list was Sabah Desert and Go On. Now, if you're saying you think Sabah
I
Desert
don't. I just. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking the
could
national
happen.
stakes at the Curragh on Sunday. I didn't think was an outstanding renewal. And we'll get to it in a minute. But you have Brussels, Dorstead, Stad was well beaten in Deauville by Venetian Sun. She's obviously very good. Italy, North Coast, Pacific Avenue, Puerto Rico, Zavaretti of Eve Johnson Hamptons. I thought, yeah, if Saba Desert Group 1, 2-year-old form, he's by the Bowie. I just thought he might come there for that.
Interesting. Well, if they do both turn up at Doncaster, I will be siding with Sabah Desert. Obviously, both him and Guana, two from two, but there is that collateral form with Italy, both beating the horse by around about a length and a half, something like that. But I just thought Sabah Desert was going for was sort of starting to lengthen, and I thought would come on lovely for the run and would take all the beating. But hopefully, they both avoid each other, and we can back both Go On over at Doncaster and Sabah Desert over in Ireland. But yeah, a nice race. I can't wait for that one. So let's look at the 3 o'clock, the Betfred Park Stakes, a Group 2 over 7 furlongs, wide open race here. I could not get my head wrapped around this, Ruby. Can you shed some light on who the most likely winner is?
Um, the Guides of March has been incredibly disappointing, so
Yeah.
I'd be giving him a wide berth. Of the older horses, audience well beaten at York in the city of York. King's Gamble well beaten by More Thunder at Newbury. Couldn't be with him either. Uh, it just keeps coming back to the Guineas form. Shadow of Light, that run at Newmarket behind Ruling Court and Field of Gold, to me, is the strongest piece of form in the race. Wimbledon Hawkeye was back in fifth. I just think, yeah, I know he got to the front of Deauville on his last start and then folded in the last 50 yards. 6 furlongs was too sharp for him in the Commonwealth Cup, but I do like Shadow of Light, and I just think he's the best horse in the race. And I think he's the most likely winner, Bash. Not
Yeah.
that I will be parting with any of my own cash, but I do think he's the most likely winner.
Yeah, it's one of those races when you go through each horse, you're sort of crossing them out one by one, and it's
Yeah.
finding it hard for positives. But again, the one name I've got down is Shadow of Light. Just got that proven course form, but does have to bounce back and does have to prove he still really wants it. But we will find out at 3 o'clock on Saturday. So talking of Saturday, let's get on to the big race of the day at Doncaster. It is the Betfred St Leger taking place 3:40 p.m. Ruby, who wins the last classic of the season in England?
Um, I thought Tarians was solid at York in the Melrose when he beat many men even.
Mhm.
Stayed through, probably ran better than his finished position at York in the Great Voltager. Scandinavia, of course, won the Goodwood Cup. Saratoga, I couldn't fancy. Rahieb, decent enough behind Merchant, but Carmers holds him from Ascot. Lambourne was disappointing in York, but it was a slowly run race that didn't suit him. Further, won well at Newbury, beating Epic Poet, but was well held by Scandinavia at Newmarket in July in the Bahrain Trophy. Carmers was ran really well at York, and the extra couple of furlongs will suit.
He's a solid each way bet, Karmas, isn't he?
he is a solid each way bet cameras. There's no doubt. Is there any possibility? Like, they're all left in the Curragh as well, Bash. Scandinavia, Lambourn, and Carmers. I wonder if Carmers go to the Curragh. Maybe he won't. Maybe they take on their own age group. Scandinavia is such an improving type. He was beaten by Carmers at Ascot. He improved from there. I don't know. Lambourn or Scandinavia?
Oh,
Carmers.
straightforward,
I
Ruby.
don't think Lambourn ran his race at York at all.
Interesting.
Um, at all. I'm going to side with him.
You're going with Lambourne?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't have you as the forgiving type, Ruby. I will stick my neck out and say Karmas will uphold the form with Lambourne. However, they'll both be beaten by Scandinavia. Just that improving, typical Aidan O'Brien horse that just keeps improving, improving, improving. And I think will probably win this by a couple lengths plus. Around about 11 to 8, I think is fair enough. But I just think he's massively improving. Will take the beating. Karmas will come second and Lambourne will be back in third. But I cannot wait to watch the St Leger. But enough of Doncaster. We've got the winners. We've got the money in the pocket. We're going to head over to Ireland now. Have a look at some of the Group Ones at Leopardstown. Obviously, the Irish Champions weekend is the Saturdays at Leopardstown. The Sundays at the Curragh. Ruby, you'll be there both days, won't you?
I will be, yeah, Bash. I like one at 3:20 on Saturday, actually, in
Ooh,
Leopardstown
nice.
in the KPMG Champion Juvenile Stakes, which is quite similar to one of those two races in Doncaster. It seems to be the same race, both sides of the Irish Sea. And that is a horse called Hardy Warrior, who was very eye-catching at Killarney behind Benvenuto Cellini, and then stepped forward to win impressively here at Leopardstown in the middle of July when he beat South Island. Joseph O'Brien trains him. I would be with Hardy Warrior. It looks a decent race on paper. We don't have declarations, but I was really impressed with Hardy Warrior and Leopardstown on his last start. He'll do me.
Interesting. Hardly worried to get some money in your pocket before we move on to the first Group One on Saturday at Leopardstown, the 425, the Matron Stakes, fillies and mares, Group One over a mile, a competitive race. Obviously, we don't have decks at the moment. Is there a certain filly or mare which is sticking out to
Well,
you,
the two
Ruby?
that probably stick out are Fallen Angel and January, who were first and second at Deauville the last time they ran. That was in August in the Group One. Which Group One did they run in Deauville? There's that many of them. I get them mixed up. But
Yeah.
obviously, Fallen Angel beat January that day. Cersei, do you think she stayed in Goodwood?
No,
Me neither.
I don't think she did.
And is
But
the
it was
Zaragana
testing
run
ground
good
that
enough?
day, wasn't it?
It was. And is the Zaragana run from Ascot good enough?
Absolutely. We don't need to question the French 1,000 guineas form, Ruby. You know that. Um, Go on. I'll let you tell me your winner before I tell you the certainty in the race.
Ooh, certainty in the race. Well, Bash, I don't think there's a certainty in it. So if you think there's a certainty, by all
No,
means, take the floor.
there's no such thing as a certainty here. But Cesene, am I saying that right? Cesene?
So Sene, isn't it?
Cesene, yeah, okay. Who won the coronation over at Royal Ascot, was then second when didn't stay behind Whirl on testing ground over a mile here. The Zaragana form is top notch. I'd love to see Cesene win this, but I think it's another race you kind of want to wait for Dex. See, is there much rain forecast over in Ireland, Ruby?
The showers forecast all week. The official going in Leopardstown is good at the moment. I can't see it getting much slower than that now, Bash, to tell you the truth. But look, a mile in Leopardstown draw will be key too. I mean, if you're, it'll most likely be Gary Carroll and Cesene, but like if he gets drawn 12 of 12 here, and that's it, probably won't be 12 runners, there's 13 left in, but
Yeah.
like you get drawn out there 10, 11, that's a bogey of a draw. So look, draw will come into it, but I probably am leaning towards Cersei as well, and I'll forgive her the run behind Whirl over 12, over 10 at Goodwood.
Love that, and hopefully you might be getting a little bit of an each way price. We will see. But the 5:30, the Irish Champion Stakes, fantastic race. Last year I was lucky enough to be there. Um, Another cracking race. It's going to be very, very competitive. Is there a horse which is calling your name at the moment, Ruby?
Mm, I won't be with Delacroix anyway.
Interesting. Why's that?
gone off him. Didn't,
Really?
yeah, didn't do it for me at Epsom the way he behaved in the paddock. Obviously came back and won the Eclipse. Didn't like him coming across the track in York, how he was behaving. Um, Thought he was well beaten in the muddling race in the Juddmonte. Ombudsman absolutely kicked him out of the way, which I didn't foresee. But no, I won't be with Delacroix. I would like to see how Shin Emperor looks in the paddock. I thought he ran a cracker on the contest last year behind Economics. Ground was too soft for him at Longchamp then in the Arc. Um, Obviously hasn't run since Maidan back in April, which is the Shima Classic. And yeah, I don't know. I think if the vibes are solid about Jim Emperor here, he walked on the Curragh this morning. We're recording this on Tuesday, and the Japanese were very, very happy with him. I'd like to see him in the paddock. I think if he looks straight enough, I could be with Shin Emperor. If we got plenty of rain, probably with White Birch as well. If he got on the slow side, wouldn't want to be any better than good for him. But no, I'll be against Delacroix. I'll have the field running for me.
Interesting. That's interesting because I mean I have it in my head that this is just going to be a prep race for the Archfish Emperor. But as you said, if he ran a good race last year, and if he is fit enough, I would say this is weaker this year than what it was last year. This
I
race.
would think so too. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. What's your thoughts on Anmat?
Uh, is he? Actually, look, he's a very good horse bash. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Be interesting to see who rides Anmat. Obviously, Jim
Mm.
Crawley, unfortunately, is out injured. I didn't think Anmat had any excuse at Ascot.
Hmm.
Thought he came from a little bit off the pace as well and got run over by Ombudsman. But again, he's only 2 lengths behind Ombudsman at Ascot. Delacroix was 3.5 behind him at York. So you could argue, yeah, Matt had his chance. Second to Los Angeles back in the Curragh in May in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. Calpana just behind him, White Birch. That was a really solid effort as well. Yeah, he's definitely a runner, Bash, and he's not a bad price at 11-2.
I know he's the one I keep coming to. He just travels so well, but does he just find one too good? And if he does, for me, it would be Delacroix, rated £3 clear on ratings. But I don't know. I'm on the fence between Anmat and Delacroix. But again, interesting. It'd
Yeah, well,
be
I prefer to have Anmat, Shin Emperor, White Birch running for me against Delacroix. I'll be with the field here.
interesting. Okie dokie. All right, let's see what happens, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any market support for Shin Emperor. Anything else for you on this Saturday of the Irish Championship?
No, Bash again. Look, Leopardstown is a wonderful race course, but draw will be huge. In the Inglebell Stakes at 2:15, if Diamond Necklace were to run there, she holds an entry in the Moidlair on Sunday as well. She would obviously be of interest. There's a couple of handicaps. The Bold Lad, I think, is the first one. No, Sovereign Path, which is a 7 furlong handicap. You just don't want to be high in that. Something like Dunham got a low draw close to the pace. You could be hard to peg back. And the second last is the other handicap there, which is the Patingo. That's 1.5 miles. I thought Willie had a couple in that. Helvic Dream, of course, coming back from his demotion in the Galway hurdle would be of interest. He seems to be in really good order. Willie has Bunting, Charles. No, couldn't really be keen on either of them. Um, Too bossy for us. Too bossy for us. Too bossy for us, maybe, would be the pick of Willie's.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Thank you for that, Ruby. And make sure, yeah, all of you guys watching, make sure you enjoy Leopardstown, one of my favorite race courses. The atmosphere is always fantastic. And then the Sunday, obviously, we move over to the Curragh. There's a couple Group Ones we'll be looking at, but before we do that, Ruby, is there any from you? You told me you've got some sure things lined up here, so I'll let you take the floor with anything.
I don't. Obviously, you're looking at 2-year-olds. I mean, the most rock solid 2-year-old this season has arguably been Venetian Sun, and Carl Burke hasn't hidden his how big a fan he is of this fillies,
Yeah,
and runs in the colours of Tony Bloom and Ian McKelvey. Look, won at Carlisle, backed it up at Ascot, went to Newmarket and won, been to Deauville and won. That's 4. The Curragh in September could be 5. Could she end up with 6 runs, 6 wins as a 2-year-old? There's a strong possibility, and she looks really, really good. So it'd be very hard to oppose Venetian Sun if she runs in the Moidlair at 2:40.
perfect. Love that. Venetian Sun for Ruby in the 240. In the 315, the Flying Five.
Asfoora, could Asfoora become the first Australian horse trained horse to win in Ireland?
That was exactly my
Um,
question to yourself.
uh,
Put in the best performance she has done in a while last time out.
yeah, and it was interesting in listening to Henry Dwyer afterwards. He was willing to forgive Asfora her Goodwood run before York. He primed her for York, and she was a very good winner. There was very few horses in the Nunthorpe who actually had the speed to win it. She was one of them, and she was very impressive. She got an ideal run through the race and got an ideal toe into it and quickened up to win smartly. And I don't see anything else in this race that would win. And Nunthorpe, and one of the huge price that could run well back on a stiffer track is Town and Country. Goodwood was way too quick for Town and Country in the King George Qatar Stakes behind JM Jungle. So I think Town and Country back on a stiffer five might suit her to run well and run into the money at a big price.
Interesting. I was lucky enough to have a beer with Mr. Dwyer a couple of days before Royal Ascot. Lovely guy. So I'd love to see him have another success with Asfora here. Ruby, in terms of the Curragh, is there a draw bias at all?
Yeah, look, if it got wet, you'd want to be high.
Okay.
Mile on the round. I don't think there's a mile round race this week. You need to be in. But other than that, not
Okay.
particularly. If you're pushing me, I would say high rather than low, but it's probably like most sprint tracks, Bashy, it's pace dependent. But
Okay.
once you get enough of pace across the track, that won't be that big a draw bias, no.
Okie dokie. And the last race I've got to look at here is the 425, the International Irish St Leger Group 1, 1 mile, 6 furlongs. Will we see absurd here?
No, Absurd is in quarantine on Friday, as far as I know, to go to Australia. So you
Ah,
won't see him here. I think he's actually taken out as I flicked down through the race. He
oh,
was
interesting.
because he's gone to
Oh,
Newmarket. So Al Rifa is your favourite, was obviously good here in the Curragh Cup when he stepped up to this distance for the first time, beating Shackleton and drawn to Dream. This is a better contest. And Al Rifa, I think he was well placed to win the Group 1s that he's won. Just hasn't always struck me as an out and out Group 1 horse. I think coming down a trip will suit Illinois. He's a big runner. Amalok has his chance too, and I would be very interested if any of the 3-year-olds lined up, Carmers, Lambourne, Scandinavia, even stay through. I think if any one of the four of those line up here, along with Amalok, I think the 3-year-olds could beat the older horses.
yeah, absolutely. And again, it's one of those races where there's sort of dual entries at Doncaster and over here. So
Yeah.
let's wait and see what the declarations say. But if I had to ask you for your most strongest fancy of the ones we've spoken about, Ruby, who would it be?
I agree with you on Sweet William. If Saba Desert comes to the Curragh, I thought Gowan would win on Saturday at Doncaster. I
Yeah.
really fancy Hardy Warrior in the 320 at Leopardstown. And at the Curragh, Venetian Sun, Asfora, and Red Letter in the 5 o'clock. Bashi, who we didn't touch on, the 5 o'clock at the Curragh on Sunday is the Blandford Stakes. I do think Gary Carroll gave her a good ride at the Curragh here over 9 furlongs on her last start in the Snow Ferry Filly Stakes, where she beat San Gazelle and Barnavara. But she looked to me like she wanted to go further, and I think going an extra furlong would really suit Red Letter in the Blandfords at 5:20 or 5 o'clock even on Sunday evening.
Well, perfect. Well, if you need a sort of get out of jail stakes, that's the one all the punters will be going on, Ruby. But
Possibly.
but thank you everyone for watching. I hope you all have the best time over in Ireland. It really is a fantastic weekend. Ruby, thank you very much for joining us. I imagine the next time we'll be speaking to you will be the Arc.
I yeah, it should be Bash with a bit of luck. Yeah, it will be the Arc. Can't wait for it actually. Enjoy the Arc weekend.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And of course, if you would like to join us at any of our trips, just head over to racingbreaks.com. But thanks for watching and good luck this weekend.